Everybody, what's going on? Fabian for Liberty, fabianforliberty.com. So breaking news, the Federal Reserve has announced an interest rate hike, a quarter rate in the prime lending rate. And, it's interesting because I'm thinking, what's the real reason the Fed's raising rates? I mean, the pundits from CNBC and the different stock channels out there and mainstream media will tell you, well, it's because, the economy is getting better after 6.5 years from the Great Recession and 10 years of no rate hike. I would differ on that. I think there's a couple reasons why we're seeing the Fed raise rates. Janet Yellen basically comes out and said that it's going to be a gradual process of raising rates. I've been on record saying that a rate hike, a continued rate hike, would have a serious impact on businesses. We've seen car loans, we've seen mortgages, we've seen business loans all increase over the last several years due to the record low interest rates. And, really not just record low interest rates, but the underwriting that used to be done for loans is pretty much non-existent compared to what it was 20 years ago. So how does this affect the economy, and what I believe are the real reasons that they're being raised? Well, how it affects the economy is, again, we're going to see, the truth is that, a lot of banks came out upon the announcement. They raised their rate on home mortgages from 3.25 to 3.50. Really not that much, but nonetheless, they have done that. Will we see a significant impact immediately? No, we won't, because a lot of these rate changes will take months to work themselves into the economy. And it's really a minuscule amount to begin with. Now, if they would have come out and said, look, as we saw the Bank of Russia do when, they were being hit with economic sanctions, raise rates, significantly by 5-10 points in a short period of time, we'd see a spiraling down of the economy. Or if we saw what the Fed chief did with respect to fighting inflation, Volcker did, where it was a significant rate hike. I mean, it went from like 8% to close to 22% in under a year. We would see the economy would be absolutely collapse and be game over. So here's the reasons I think the Fed's increasing rates. One is I think that the Feds are in a transition mode. We've seen this, new climate deal that's been done. I certainly believe that they recognize now the multi-trillion-dollar, or the banks that own the Federal Reserve, like Goldman Sachs and others that are heavily invested in green energy, and recognize that the carbon market is a $10 trillion plus market. They want to raise rates because right now we're in a situation where a lot of these oil and natural gas companies, particularly oil though, are in dire straits. They're heavily indebted, and they want to crush them and put them out of business. Now, the market's already doing that. Oil's at $35, but this is a way of really destroying these smaller oil companies and the oil markets in general, so that the price of oil will be plummeting. These companies will go out of business, and it carves the path for alternative fuels and for these, green type of fuels that the big banks are heavily invested in. We know Al Gore, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, they all got a hand in this. The second one is more important, though. That's just a real small factor. The second one is I think they're sending a signal to the rest of the world, particularly the emerging economies, that the Federal Reserve is still the central power of global finances around the world, that they dictate things and they are the ones that are in control. And this is done, at a time when the rest of the world's looking around and they're saying, look, America's not what it used to be. Vladimir Putin is gaining a lot of influence around the world. But like I've always said, the Federal Reserve is extremely strong. And even though there will be an end of this business cycle, even though I believe, the proof will one day be revealed of how the Fed is robbing from the middle class and the working class in America, is really a criminal organization. I mean, look, yesterday in the GOP debates, I can't watch the debates, to be honest. They're so lousy, and it's just so horrible but, there was a lot of talk about terrorism. Yet there was no mention whatsoever about financial terrorism, the financial terrorist on Wall Street, the financial terrorist at the Federal Reserve. That's never talked about. And you want a message that'll resonate? That's a message that will resonate because it's truthful. So that's my breakdown, ladies and gentlemen, of the truth behind why the Fed raised rates, why I think they raised rates. It's if you believe it's because the economy is getting better, are there certain segments of the economy that are getting better? Perhaps. But to think that the employment market or that the the hourly wage or any of the manufacturing of any of that stuff to think that's getting any better, and then you couple that with record debts that the government has, is absolute pie in the sky fantasy. In fact, we could very well see the next Fed meeting. We could potentially see rates go back to zero if the markets act really negatively. But again, I still keep my target on my real estate forecast that I did for 2016, which I released just a few days ago, as well as my Dow Jones hitting 20,000. I think we're still on pace for all of that. And again, money is still very, very cheap for the elites to basically get loans and to, I mean, look, 0.25% is nothing. And I don't think that this is going to be something we're going to see in a continued basis over the next Fed meetings that take place. All right, so last thing I just want to say, holiday sale to the end of the year. The link is down below if you want to enroll in any of my real estate courses. There's a lot of things happening in the real estate market, and I think there's a major opportunity later this or next year. I mean, there's an opportunity right now, but next year, I think that we'll begin to see the real estate market really begin to spiral down towards the presidential election, I think. And both now and then, it's a great time to prepare for that, because I think it's going to be one of the greatest investment opportunities of all time. And there'll be several of them, but I stick to real estate as far as what I do with my money. So that link is down below if you're interested. Also, I've opened up a very, very small, it's only going to be for 4 people, coaching program. I have other coaching clients, but this is going to be a little bit different. It's an expensive program, but nonetheless, it's a year program, and it's guaranteed results. If you're interested, you can email me. The email is down below. I'm Fabian Calvo, Fabian for Liberty. Thanks for watching. I'm out.